Hey guys, it's Destiny, and today I wanted to go over teams for our 5-star characters. And before we get into today's video, let me know what games you guys would recommend for others to try out. For me personally, I definitely have to say the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon series or even Fire Emblem. Lastly, if you guys do enjoy videos like these, make sure to subscribe and also hit the like button for a 4-star version of this video. Now, let's get straight into it. To start, let's go over our standard 5-star characters, which will begin with Himeko. Himeko is a Fire Erudition character who can unleash follow-up attacks onto enemies whenever enemies are weakness broken. She will gain 1 charge per weakness break, but if you break an elite enemy or higher, she will actually gain 3 charges. This will allow you to immediately unleash her follow-up attacks, so it's definitely good to know how many charges she has at a time to make sure you take full advantage of this. When it comes to team comps, a strong dual DPS team that you could do is Himeko and Topaz, alongside a supportive character that can benefit both of their damage outputs. Then you could put Sustain of your preference from there. Topaz's Proof of Debt ability will benefit Himeko's follow-up damage, and both of these two do a good job at dealing with fire-weak enemies together. As for the Sustain option, I really like Acheron with this team since you'll be able to unleash a good amount of follow-up attacks, and he could definitely assist with weakness-breaking imaginary weak enemies as well. Acheron also helps Himeko keep her Trace benchmark active at all times with his shields, since she'll want her current HP percentage at 80% or higher, as this will allow her to have increased crit rate of 15%. So for your sustain, I would definitely recommend using somebody that can help Himeko's HP stay above that 80% threshold to ensure she gets full advantage of that additional crit rate in her skill kit. If you guys do have a strong enough Himeko team though and feel like playing a little risky, you could also do no sustain and use Asta, for example, with Dance Dance Dance, who speed up the team tremendously, and Asta also increases the fire damage of allies as well. For alternative DPS options, I would prioritize having another DPS alongside Himeko who can assist Himeko with weakness breaking as fast as possible, which would come down to the enemy weaknesses that you are fighting. Another team you can use with Himeko is more pure fiction oriented, but this team is really good at clearing the mode pretty easily, which would mainly be Himeko and Herta since they can do a bunch of follow-up attacks, and this just lets you clear out the mobs very fast. You could also do hyper carry Himeko, which would consist of pairing her with characters such as Yuan, Ruan Mei, Rania, and so on. This comp can honestly be applied to a good amount of DPS characters because of all the buffs you'll be able to grant your DPS. But when it comes to Himeko in particular, I'm more of a fan of the dual DPS comps with her, especially those that can help with her dealing frequent follow-up attacks on an enemy. Next up is Clara. Clara is a physical destruction class character who focuses on dealing follow-up attacks onto enemies that attack her. Clara benefits from characters that can increase her damage output while her follow-up attacks are attacking enemies. Examples of this can be Tingyun's buff with her skill, Sparkle's crit damage buff staying onto Clara until Clara's following turn, Robin's team-wide damage buffs, crit damage buffs, and so on. Reducing enemy stats will also help Clara deal more damage, which is where a character like Pilla or Silverwolf can be a great option to help with Clara's overall damage output. The sustain you use alongside Clara is ultimately up to what sustains you have available, but a sustain such as Lynx can help the likelihood of Clara being hit, which results in more follow-up attacks. You can also use March 7th to help with this, but keep in mind if you freeze enemies often, then they'll take longer to attack Clara. You can also go the dual DPS route with Clara, which Topaz can be a great option if you're fighting physical and fire-weak enemies, since Clara can take advantage of Proof of Debt. Next up though, we have Welt. Welt is an imaginary nihility character who focuses on slowing down enemies, as well as delaying them with his ultimate. Welt can be used as a DPS or even a sustain because of his ability to delay enemies. For Welt teams, you can buff him up as well as allow him to get more frequent ultimates with Tingyun, debuff enemy defenses with Pela, and Ruan Mei alongside Welt is a very powerful combination because of how much they can actually delay enemies. You can also try a super break oriented team with Harmony MC, Ruan Mei, and Welt as a pseudo sustain. They will all be able to delay enemies, which can allow your main DPS on this team to keep attacking the enemies before they can actually attack you. Plus, with all the delays you can do with these three, you can keep enemy weaknesses broken longer, which means more opportunities to take advantage of super break damage. You can also use Welt alongside Acheron or Dr. Ratio. With Acheron, he can help her with the want of having 2 Nihility allies. And for Dr. Ratio, Welt can debuff enemies, and you can also put Resolution Shines as Pearls of Sweat on Welt, on a Dr. Ratio team to get closer to the debuff requirements that Dr. Ratio wants for consistent follow-up attacks. Welt is definitely an interesting DPS character since there are multiple ways he can be used, and it honestly comes down if you're looking to make him one of your primary damage dealers or a pseudo-sustain where he focuses on still dealing damage to enemies, but having a high priority on slowing and delaying them. Now for our final standard DPS character, we have Yanqing. Yanqing is an ice hunt character, and for teams, you'll want to amplify his damage output as much as you can. Similar to our previous DPS characters, there's options such as Yuan, Ruan Mei, and so on, but Pela, especially at E4, can be a very nice option on a Yanqing team, since you can reduce enemy defenses as well as ice resistance, which Yanqing can benefit from both of these debuffs. For your sustain, you'll ideally want to use Jeopard or Aventurine so that Yanqing can have a shield active for as long as possible to make sure he doesn't lose his Soul Seal Sync effect in battle. And you can try March 7th as your sustain, but do keep in mind that her shield will result in the enemies attacking that shielded ally more often, so it could actually end up hurting you since you might end up losing your Soul Seal Sync effect in the end. Now for our limited 5-star characters, let's start with Seele. Seele is a quantum hunt character who could take advantage of her unique mechanic Resurgence whenever she defeats an enemy with her basic attack, skill, or ultimate, and this gives her an additional turn. Seele can be quite skill point hungry at times, so having supports who can assist with the skill point usage can assist greatly with this. I would recommend Seele as your main hyper carry, since it can potentially be far too skill point intensive to have her alongside another DPS. As for the supports you can pair Seele with, you could do Mono Quantum, which consists of Seele, Silverwolf, who can implant the Quantum weakness as well as debuff enemies, Sparkle, and Fu Xuan or Lynx. If you're playing outside of Mono Quantum, you can swap the supports around, which can consist of Bronya and Silverwolf, Yuan and Sparkle, Ruan Mei alongside Bronya or Sparkle, and so on. Seele has quite a few supportive options you can go for to amplify her damage output on a team, and for sustain, you can use any sustain. It would be preferable to use one that can help with skill point regeneration, and in particular Fu Xuan can provide nice crit rate buffs for the team, which does assist Seele as she wants high crit rate and high crit damage ratios. Next up though, we have Jingliu, who is a Lightning Erudition character, and Jingliu focuses on gaining stacks for his Lightning Lord to strike and deal a bunch of damage onto enemies. With Jingliu, you'll want to focus on amplifying his damage as much as you can, and some great partners for this can be Yuan, Sparkle for the advance forward, which can allow Jingliu to run attack boots much easier, as well as provide him massive crit damage buffs. Ruan Mei can assist with Jingliu's weakness breaking efficiency with his attacks and also provide very strong buffs for Jingliu. And you could also actually consider a character like Yukong for the huge attack, crit rate, and crit damage buffs she can give Jingliu with proper speed tuning. And a recent team that's been floating around is Jingliu with Harmony MC and Ruan Mei to take advantage of the super break from Harmony MC. For your sustain, it's going to be more based on what you have available, but Fu Xuan can help with more crit rate for Jingliu and helping Jingliu resist crowd control debuffs, which can hinder Lightning Lord if you do get hit with one. Hua can provide the team with more energy and attack and also has a bunch of cleansing. Aventurine provides effect resistance with the shields. Gallagher can also be a nice option if you decide to go for a super break team comp, so it ultimately comes down to which sustain you have on your account, as there are different benefits for Jingliu from some of the ones I mentioned. As for our next character, we have Blade. Blade is a wind destruction character who focuses on losing health to unleash follow-up attacks and improve his ultimate damage based on how much HP he has lost. Blade works well with characters that can allow him to attack more often, one of them being Bronya. You can run Blade slightly faster than Bronya and now have Bronya advancing forward Blade very often, which results in Blade getting his follow-up attacks faster as well as attacking more often. You can pair Blade alongside Jingliu as well, since Jingliu drains Blade's health, and because of this, Blade will be able to unleash his follow-up attacks more often, and you'll want to pair them with a support that buffs both of them, or a budget option can of course be Pela, who can reduce the enemy defenses and also reduce ice resistance, which can help for Jingliu's damage output on that team. For sustains alongside Blade, I would primarily recommend a healer. Lynx can allow Blade to be hit more often with her skill, and Luocha can assist with skill points and keeping the team alive with ease. I recommend Luocha the most if you decide to use Bronya and Blade alongside Robin, so that you can regenerate a good amount of skill points as the battle goes on. Now we have Kafka, who is a lightning nihility character who is definitely the queen of damage over time. Kafka is able to detonate damage over time with her skill kit, which allows you to deal explosive damage onto enemies. For Kafka, I would probably recommend her alongside 2 other damage over time characters and a sustain, or using her with 1 damage over time character, a support that can assist the entire team, and lastly a sustain. For supports, Asa can be a great free-to-play option as she can increase the speed and attack of all allies. Ruan Mei provides more speed for the team, weakness breaking efficiency, massive damage buffs, the ult-type res penetration, and much more. You can even use Robin as she advances the team forward by 100%, which can allow you to stack more damage over time onto enemies, and she also gives massive attack and damage buffs, which damage over time characters can highly take advantage of. The sustain I like the most though with damage over time teams would have to be Hua because of the fact that she provides energy and attack to allies, which damage over time characters definitely take advantage of having higher attack. As for our next DPS, we have Dan Heng. Dan Heng is an imaginary destruction class character who can amplify his basic attacks by using more skill points. Since he is skill point intensive, you'll want allies that can help with skill point regeneration. Some great options would be Sparkle, as her ultimate grants more skill points and allows you to stack up to 7 skill points rather than only 5. Yuan is skill point positive and also gives Dan Heng more energy, which means you'll be able to use his ultimate more often and use less skill points with his enhanced basic attacks as a result. Hanya can provide nice buffs and also grant the team more skill points with her burn ability. You can also consider Pela since she could be very skill point positive and can reduce the enemy defenses, which benefits Dan Heng's damage output. For your sustain, there are multiple options you can use. Some notable ones though can be Luocha or Gallagher because of how many skill points they can get back to the team. Bushwin provides crit rate, which Dan Heng can take advantage of, and so on. Now we have Jingliu. Jingliu is a ice destruction class character who focuses on entering her enhanced state and dealing as much damage as possible. I mentioned a Jingliu and Blade synergy earlier, which also applies here as well as for a team comp recommendation. Jingliu is amazing as a hyper carry as well, of course. Pela is a great option for reducing enemy defenses and ice resistance. Yuan provides Jingliu more energy, which can allow Jingliu to stay in her enhanced state longer. Bronya can advance forward Jingliu and allow her to get into the enhanced state faster, as well as providing Jingliu very valuable buffs. And as for your sustain, you can use Hua for more energy to stay in the enhanced state longer, Luocha for more skill points if you decide to do a Jingliu, Bronya, and Robin team, and you can also consider Fuxuan because of her massive HP amount. This makes it easier to drain enough health for Jingliu to actually get the most out of her massive attack increases in her enhanced state. Next up is Topaz and Numby. Topaz is a Firehung character who focuses on inflicting proof of debt onto an enemy and synergizing very well with other follow-up attackers. One of Topaz's best teams would definitely be the IPC team due to the amount of follow-up attacks that Topaz, Dr. Ratio, and Aventurine inflict onto enemies. And you can use Robin, Ruan Mei, or as a budget option, Pela to further amplify the team's damage potential. As for other comps, you can use Topaz alongside Clara or Himeko as another dual DPS option as mentioned earlier in this video. Topaz loves to be alongside another DPS who can inflict frequent follow-up attacks, as this will allow her to deal more follow-up attacks herself, and the DPS paired alongside with her can deal more damage because of Topaz's proof of debt ability. Next up though is our beautiful knight Argenti. Argenti is a physical erudition character who has 2 ultimates you can take advantage of. One at 90 energy and then his massive ultimate at 180 energy. Argenti wants as much energy as possible so that he can unleash his maximum ultimate often. Some amazing pairs can be Yuan since she can provide Argenti 50 energy at E0 and 60 energy at E6, which helps him get closer to using his 180 energy ultimate, and she can also provide him incredible buffs. Another nice option could be Pela for the defense drops, Bronya for advancing Argenti forward and attacking more often, which can help him regenerate energy faster. Hanya is also a nice option since Argenti can easily trigger her burden effect due to him being AoE, Ruan Mei for the massive buffs she provides, and so on. As for sustains, any sustain should be fine, but one notable synergy would be Hua, since she provides Argenti even more energy, which when paired with Yuan, you'll be getting Argenti's ultimate very quick. I would recommend playing Argenti as a hyper carry character with allies that primarily support his damage output and also his energy wants. Also, if you guys have made it this far into the video, I honestly don't know, just comment glazed donuts. It's super random, but I think it'll be kind of funny if there's just like a bunch of comments or a thread of people saying glazed donuts in the comments below. Now though, we have Dr. Ratio, who is Imaginary Hunt. Dr. Ratio wants allies who can inflict debuffs onto enemies so that he's able to inflict his follow-up attacks onto enemies very frequently. You can use Dr. Ratio as a hyper carry or a dual DPS alongside Topaz, and for the Topaz team, as mentioned earlier, you want a supportive character who can benefit both characters as your third slot, and Adventuring will be the best sustain option here, but you can use other sustains as well, such as Huahua, Fuxuan, and so on. For hyper carry Dr. Ratio, Silverwolf is a great option to inflict plenty of debuffs onto an enemy. Pela can reduce defenses of enemies, Tingyun can provide Dr. Ratio additional energy to use his ultimate more often, and also the damage buffs. Bronya can advance Dr. Ratio forward if you have her 1 speed or more below his speed. You can also use Guanaifen as she'll inflict 2 debuffs at E0, one being Fire Kiss and the other being Burn. And if your Guanaifen is E1 or above, then she can inflict an effect resistance debuff as well, which means you'll actually be able to get all 3 debuffs you need for Dr. Ratio. Next up is Black Swan, who is a Wind Nihility character, and she focuses on inflicting as much Arcana as possible onto enemies and synergizing very well with other damage over time users. Ideally, you want to pair Black Swan with another damage over time user, some great options being Kafka, Guanaifen, and Sampo. For the third slot, I would recommend Robin, Ruan Mei, or Asta for the reasons I list with how they benefit Kafka's team and damage over time teams in general. For your sustain, Huahua will still be the best bet because of the energy in the attack, but any sustain should be perfectly fine. We are finally nearing the end of today's video, and now we have Acheron. Acheron is a Lightning Nihility character who focuses on stacking Crimson Knot onto enemies and gaining /Dream stacks to unleash her ultimate. Once you have 9 stacks, you'll be able to unleash massive amounts of damage onto enemies, and Acheron does favor allies who are part of the Nihility path to increase her damage output as well as inflict more Crimson Knot and gain more /Dream stacks. Since whenever an ally inflicts a debuff, they'll be able to increase the amount of stacks by 1. For teams with Acheron, you'll ideally want her with 2 Nihility characters, or if you have a very powerful support, for example Sparkle, you could do 1 Nihility Acheron and your Harmony character. Acheron highly values defense drops, which makes Pela, Silverwolf, and even Black Swan great options for getting more stacks for Acheron, as well as debuffing enemies. You can also use Guanaifen as well for the Fire Kiss effect and getting more stacks. Another team comp can consist of using Acheron alongside Kafka and Black Swan for a bunch of explosive damage, but you could also just go for a Acheron team on one side of Memory of Chaos and a damage over time team on the other side of Memory of Chaos. For using 1 Harmony, you can either use a sustain as usual or use Welt as your pseudo sustain on the team, to still get the full buffs from Acheron's skill kit as well as amplifying her damage even further with the additional support on the team. For sustains, I would recommend Fuxuan for the additional crit rate, Aventurian for the unnerved debuff and his skill kit, and Gallagher for the debuffs he can inflict during and after his ultimate. There's definitely quite a few options you can do with deciding how to go about your Acheron team. That'll be all though for today's video, and for those wondering about Boot Hill, not to worry, I'll be making content on him very soon, so stay tuned for my thoughts and showcases on him as well. I do have to say though, there were quite a few characters that were mentioned often in some of my team comp suggestions, for example Tingyun, Pela, characters like that, but honestly this is primarily due to the fact that a lot of the supportive characters are very universal for a bunch of team comps, and they can just end up working on so many of them, which definitely makes it worthwhile to invest into your supports quite a bit, just so you can take advantage of those buffs. And it could also make team building much easier as well. But let me know in the comments down below, which teams do you guys play the most, and what character are you most excited for that'll be coming out soon? Boot Hill, Jade, or Firefly? If you guys did enjoy this video though, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and I will see you all next time. Peace.